Hello, thank you, Vincent, for this introduction. Very interesting new format. We like it. I'm really happy to welcome two people I know quite well. It's been a long time that we know each other. So thank you for being here. First of all, Axelle Lemaire, sorry. Hello, Axelle, former minister, French minister here in France, and now a partner as Roland Berger. How do we say Roland Berger? Roland Berger, Roland Berger.
It's of German origin, so in Germany they say Roland Berger. In France we say Roland Berger, and then I suppose in America we say Roland Berger.
And Frédéric Mazzella, of course, maybe you know Fred, founder of Blablacar, one of the most successful car sharing player in the world. What about the metrics today with Blablacar?
Hello everybody, they're super good. So we say Blablacar in German, Blablacar in French, and Blablacar in English.
Yes.
Same word.
Okay.
So today the metrics are that, so we are in 22 countries. We've got a community of 70 million people, including, if we talk about France, 15 million people in France are registered with Blablacar, and one young person out of two is registered on Blablacar in France. So one person out of two in the age range 18 to 25 in France is using Blablacar. And it's growing. It's growing in many geographies, so in Europe, but also all the way to Russia and to Brazil, and it's a great adventure.
Wow, that's great. My reason to engage is very personal. What we want to hear from you today is back to the origins, in a way. I didn't know, and you probably don't know, that Axelle, you have a great engagement in of course politics. You are really engaged to change the world, but maybe no one knows that you wanted to become a pope when you were a child.
Yeah, yes, so that's true. I suppose because that was a symbol of peace and love. And then I found out that it wasn't for women, so I had to change my mind. No, but where does it come, that commitment to try to very modestly make the world a better place? To be honest, I don't know. All I remember is that as a very small child, my parents had sticked a poster in my bedroom, and that was from a French caricaturist, Plantu, and with a child claiming liberté, égalité, fraternité, so that means freedom, equality, and fraternity. And so, because I suppose already at the time I wanted to try to play a role that went beyond myself, because I think if I had to choose one G word, it would be common, it would be we, is how do we build something together?
And we know that, of course, and most of all, maybe in France, it's not so easy to play a role in the politics sector, as a woman. How did you experience? As you were former minister, was it quite something easy or quite difficult?
It wasn't easy. It's never easy in politics, but it's. I came, with a community of innovators, and we thought, let's try to disrupt politics in a good sense by building up with communities. And so when the time came to have a bill presented in Parliament, the Digital Republic Bill, here you go, the Republic again, with the articles about the principle of open data by default, typically to know better and more about climate change, about open science for researchers, about the use of open source softwares by community of developers, companies, organizations such as the state, etc. Well, of course, we had to face many oppositions, many resistance, and one way to go beyond that was to co-write the bill together with citizens online in a fully transparent manner. So we had an online consultation, and we ended up with 90 times the bill, the text of the government bill being amended by citizens online, with 5 totally new legislative articles, and eventually the bill was unanimously adopted by Parliament, so both by the National Assembly and by the Senate, the higher chamber. And I insist on that collective intelligence because I think it's not only a principle of good governance and transparency, but it's also a way to better achieve what we're aiming at. So in the end, and for the first time in that mandate, and probably for the 2 or 3 times in the last 50 years, there was a bill unanimously adopted. And I think there was a peer-to-peer pressure, and the bill had been improved by citizens, and with this collective intelligence being gathered online, well, we had a good result.
And for you, Fred, what was your reason to engage as an entrepreneur, as someone who wanted to change the world? And we know that that's something quite common, but it's real. Blablacar is changing, it's transforming lives for a lot of people, as you mentioned. What was the origin? Tell us more about the origin.
That's two things, but your question is different from the one you asked Axelle.
Yes, of course.
And so, like, what I wanted to do as a child, so, you know, as a very young boy, I think, like many others, I wanted to become a policeman. And then I wanted to be a musician, because I had seen people singing and playing and things. And then I wanted to become a windsurfer, because I was cool. And then I wanted to become a researcher, because I was like a lot of intellect. And then I ended up an entrepreneur.
When you were at Stanford?
Yeah, well, I was like passionate by research. Well, the thing is, the reason why I engaged, I mean, I had no choice actually, but to build Blablacar at some point. At least it appeared to me as the thing I had to do, or I would regret not having tried, at least all the rest of my life. And so, because at this point I was working in a company, and then I couldn't really see the way for me to influence on the strategy of the company, because I was not like really leading it. And then and also I projected myself, like if I continue in this area like for another 10 years or 20 years, and it was not what I wanted. You know, there was a very good way to turn me totally down on a topic, is to tell me what will happen. It's just like, so you know, when you enter in a big company and they tell you, so okay, in 2 years from now you'll become whatever, associate program manager, and then you'll become manager of something, and then you'll be head of whatever in 5 or 8 years, and then you'll become this, and then I'm like, thank you, you just spoiled my career. I mean, I just wanted to discover all this. And so the best way to discover everything you will be doing is by doing something which is not written at all. And you know, there is those 2 quotes I really like. One quote from John Lennon, which says, what's been done has been done. Which means, why would you redo something that has been done? And Woody Allen, which says, I'm very interested in the future because that's where I want to spend my next years. And so just like any destination you could think of, so you want to live in the future, and so you have to build it. You can hammer it into shape. Actually, this one is from Bono. But you see the references I have, it's more like artists.
We remember that you wanted to become a musician.
Yeah, I mean, because those guys had some very, very good insight and quotes as well. And so then the thing is, on Blablacar, I hate waste. And one day, and it appeared to me in several ways, because you know the story, I wanted to go back to Vendée, and all the trains were full, and then finally my little sister picked me up in Paris with her car, and then we drove to Vendée, which is about 400 kilometers from Paris. And then I saw the trains, which were full of tickets I couldn't get. It was Christmas time, and all the trains were full, so I couldn't get a ticket. And then I saw all the cars which were empty at the same time, and I was like, oh my God, like there were like thousands of seats to go to Vendée, but they were not in the trains, they were in the cars. So now we'll need to index all this. And I was just coming back from Silicon Valley, where I had studied a lot of informatics, I mean, like computer science. And I saw all these little seats available, like areas of a database that needed to be filled. And then at the same time, all the waste, because all those seats were available when I was actually looking for one. And so I was lucky I knew my sister, and I could have a ride with her. But then if you didn't know my sister that day, you couldn't travel to Vendée. And so that's why we created like this platform to make sure people can exchange their seats and then avoid the waste of all those empty seats. You know, we just published a few weeks ago a study about, so an environmental study to show how much we save in CO2 thanks to the simple fact that we put several people per car instead of just one. And we save 1.6 million tons of CO2 per year. That was last year data. And to give you a sense of scale, the entire city of Paris every year is emitting 1.3 million tons of CO2, so all the cars and trucks in Paris intramuros and the peripheric. And so we save, like with Blablacar now, we save more per year than the entire CO2 emissions from a city like Paris. So we're going in the right direction just because we're making a good usage of the empty cars, because having empty cars running on the road is just a nonsense.
That's amazing, this master. Thank you. Axelle, I guess you usually meet a lot of entrepreneurs around the world, not only in France but now abroad. And what maybe you should have a word on. Does it inspire you in a way about entrepreneurs transforming, hacking systems and
Of course, I mean, that's a great example. And I remember at the time what Fred was defending was not so obvious. And I'm not sure everyone was convinced about the solution. So I think it's fantastic. When I was in government, yes, I saw many startups, many technological companies. But I was somewhat under the impression that there was technology on one side and purpose or positive impact or engagement on the other. And I think things have evolved pretty rapidly because we're starting to understand that technologies can be enablers for the good and the better. But it's still a challenge within larger organizations. They tend to conduct their digital transformation on one side, and then on the other you'll have a bunch of people reflecting about their purpose. So I think the biggest challenge is really to combine innovation, business, and that purpose drive that actually means quite heavy transformations for large organizations. I mean, in the Blablacar, in a way, it's easier. I'm not saying that it's easy, but you have that change in your essence, right? DNA. You were born purpose-driven. For a large organization, the challenges are huge because it involves many transformations without knowing the end results.
I'd like maybe 6 minutes before we end. Let me just tell you one thing that is coming to me. Can we have to think about CSR separately from the purpose of a company, the value of a company? Is it something really interesting to separate it from the business value?
Of course not. I mean, they can't be separate from the rest. CSR, they were probably early adopters. I mean, they're very good at measuring the impact, negative or positive, and we need experts and specialists who will, in the long term, guarantee these transformations and that real, sincere commitment. But what's interesting in this shift of paradigm, I believe that we're going through at the moment, is that because of the awareness, especially of the younger generations, because of the reality of the world, because of what the customers are now asking, now CSR is addressed in terms of business. It's strategy, right? It's how can we develop new territories that might create new business opportunities and will have a positive impact. And so, of course, this needs to be done with CSR team, but it's not CSR as being there only to mitigate or compensate negative externalities, right? It's really to be part of a purpose that, applies to the whole company and its customers and clients and its employees and the society at large.
We guess that at Blablacar you do not have a CSR policy. Is it something?
No,
really
what we do by essence is already optimizing waste. So we are lucky in that sense that the mission in itself is good because it's optimizing and reducing waste. And so what we can see though is that by having such a mission, and I think that should be the mission of all the CSR departments in big companies, is to make sure that employees are aligned with the values of the company and that they work in the right direction and they feel that they are changing the world in the right direction. When this happens, you can unleash an unlimited amount of energy from the people because they are aligned with their values, with their work, with their energy, with their everyday activity, and with the interest of the company. If you don't do that, if you're not able to articulate how CSR can actually transform the business in the right direction, you end up with a team of people who are like they're cut in two because their heart is like, oh, we should do this for the environment, and then their hands and mind every day is are working on something else and making just a business work, but then they know that what they do is not what they should be doing, and so in this way you don't get half of the energy you could get if you were able to align the interests. So I think the role of CSR departments should be to make sure that they transform the activities they are in into something that can unleash the energy and the potential of all the employees, of everybody who's working for the cause. And it will also help them in recruitment, because I don't know if you've seen this initiative from young engineers in France. It has been signed by 30,000 students in the best engineering schools in France. It's called the Manifeste pour un réveil écologique. So it's like a manifesto for guys wake up for ecology. And so it's been signed by everybody, and it just says, if you don't take care of ecology, I will just not work for you. I'm sorry, I've got my alarm clock, which is just ringing.
It's music, it's okay.
Yeah, up. Okay, done.
Bono, it's Bono.
No, I don't know who it is. Hello? No one. So yeah, it just says, it's a message sent to the companies saying, if you don't take care of ecology, I will not work for you. And this is very, very clever from the young people. I mean, I think that we're not at the end of seeing what the young people, how they will change the world, and we will help them. We will do everything we can as well. But there is a notion of generation as well, because when we've seen this, they are signing to the companies, they are saying, okay, we've understood, so we're like 22, 23 years old. Our biggest asset in the world is the quantity of work, like 40 years of working for a company that we can bring to a company. This is the biggest asset they have. I mean, they don't have like money, they don't have, I don't know, lots of things they know to do because they're young, but they know that they will be working for 40 years for a company, bringing a lot of value to that company, and they say, if you company don't take care of ecology, you know what? You will not get my energy. And this is very clever. This is just sending that to the companies, and so they will have to, they will make the companies change. And as well, it is the first time that we see people going in the street, young people saying, when I'll be grown up, I just want to be alive. I mean, it's the first time we see that. I mean, what a wake-up call. I mean, we should all be like very worried, but at the same time very optimistic, because I think the young people have understood that they will change the way things go for real, and like our generations will be with them, and that's why we need to transform the business we're in as well when they're not already acting in the right direction.
Axelle, you want to add something?
Well, of course, I can only agree that they're the only lobby for the future. Otherwise, there's no lobby for the future. And it's very important, I think, not to underestimate the necessity to, the positive impact on people that engagement can bring. I'll give you one very concrete example. When I was in government, we built a platform to help deaf people, people with hearing disabilities, to get access to sign language translation, right? So that they could use their smartphones to communicate with the rest of the world. And so for the first time, we asked telecommunication operators to work together and build a product in common. And they're, you know, fierce competitors in real life. And they were like, no way, no way. So I heard that it was too costly, that from a technical point of view, it was impossible to create and then implement, that there was no market, so that there would be no consumers. Now, 3 years later, it is such a success for all these reasons, but also, and probably even more importantly, because the employees who worked on the project are over-enthusiastic about it. So now it's a non-subject. Year after year, they're like, this project, oh yeah, we keep it. You know, we invested it. It's great. But so I would say don't underestimate the difficulties in the resistance that will be expressed. But then you really have to go over that, and the return coming from the people involved is just amazing.
You are parents, like me. I'm a mother of 2. I've decided to change my life, my professional life, for giving some sense into my professional and my job. What about your kids? Do you want to give a message to your own kids, meaning, you know, regarding your different engagement? Is it something that you want to put on video forever for them?
Well, for sure, I wish them to be as clever as possible to change things in the right direction. And so I think education is here to teach them. So I'm doing a lot of efforts in that direction to teach them what the right direction, what the wrong direction. So the right direction is respect people, is respect everything we have, and it's not waste. So I'm a lot on avoiding waste as well with my children. But also in terms of education and message, I would say to maybe in a larger way to all the young generation, what I wish is that we have as many people as possible who are very analytical and articulated in their mindset, like people who love mathematics, who love physics and computer science and all those technological science, to be aware that they have a tool in their hands and in their minds which is super powerful, and they decide in which direction they send it. If they send it in the wrong direction, then we're all like in a bad situation. So all the people who are very articulated should be aware that they have the best weapon they can wish for, and they should just target it in the right direction. And we should see more and more people with this education working on the common cause of fighting climate change, fighting inequalities and everything. So that's my main message, I would say.
And for you, Axelle, what about your message for your
I have three kids, from the teenage boy to the baby, and I still change nappies, so I can see the full range. And the first word that comes to my mind is, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm sorry for the world we've left, and I think kids are totally right to be angry at us. So that, you know, we can't tell them to stop using their smartphone all the time if they see their parents using their smartphone all the time. So I think we all bear that responsibility, and we have to tell them. First thing. Second thing, it would be, if you get involved, if you get engaged, it will bring fulfillment. It will add something to your life. And third thing would be, we have no other choice, actually. And I think they will be probably the first generation to be raised in such an open awareness, but that means huge responsibility on their shoulders, and this has to be bared collectively. Otherwise, it's unbearable.
Thank you so much, Frédéric and Axelle. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.